Alrighty, I'm out here in the desert. It's actually fairly warm. It's about 70 degrees right now, and I'm dressed in gym clothing. I try to get out a couple of times at the beginning of the spring before it gets too hot and shoot in the clothing that I wear to the gym or when I'm weightlifting, because I do carry a gun when I'm in that kind of clothing. However, the testing I'm doing right now is not really necessary, like, it's not tied into the clothing. I'm actually doing some testing here with the Mec-Gar 18-round magazines for the Glock 17 or Glock 45. I have my Glock 45 appendix, and I'm just going to do a couple of different, like draws and shooting here to see how these magazines work. Two of the magazines are loaded up with 124 grain NATO spec ammo. Then the third magazine is HSTs, and I believe that they're the Plus P HSTs. I pulled them out of one of my 911 magazines that I just wasn't, I wanted to unload those magazines. I've seen reports that these drop free out of guns because they have poor engagement on certain magazine releases. I'm about to find out if that's the case for my G45. So yeah, I have my shot timer here. I'm just going to come up and do 5 rounds on beep here. So starting on beep. Okay, magazine's still in there. I had the gun out here for a second. I'm testing out the C&H Duty Optic. I've shown this a little bit in some videos, but I'm not really loving it so far. It's effectively the aim point acro that we have at home. The two biggest things is that they don't advertise a torque spec, which was annoying, and the hardware that came with mine, which I got secondhand, it was stripped because they don't advertise the torque spec, so the person didn't know what to torque it down to. And then the other issue I have is the same issue I have with a lot of Chinese optics, especially out here in these very bright conditions. The optic does not get bright enough. I want like 1 or 2 more intensity levels above what I've got. Like, I see it when I'm coming up here as part of that presentation, but it was rough, right? Like, I had like a tiny red dot. It wasn't big. 304, kind of slow there, but I wanted to get all good 10 hits, or 10 ring hits, and we did. We're just shooting at 5 yards here, because really we're testing the magazines. I'm knocking some rust off because I'm still recovering from injuries, but, yeah. I should still be 18 rounds here, or say 18 minus 5, so 13. We'll come up and do 5 again. We'll do that a couple times here, so if we have any issues. Now, admittedly, I had the issue there where the dot was so dim that just keeping it tracked on the recoil was kind of hard. I had 2 hits that went in the 9, 312. And I will say that this is not, again, we're not shooting drills here, but with doing this in gym clothing, I'm finding that my baggier gym shorts, which I've got tightened here, when I grab my shirt to clear the gun, I'm catching a little bit of the shorts, which is causing it to be a little bit slower to clear the gun. So, interesting thing there. We fired 10 rounds. We have 8 left. We're just going to dump this and then do a reload here. And we're letting the mags hit the deck here. So, starting on beep. Okay, that one felt really slow because, again, the optic is just, yeah, not great. Locked open on empty there. I have the CAGWorks slide releases, so I expect that, but it's good to know that the follower is providing enough tension to actually lock the gun open. And I ditched that magazine. It fell out of the gun just fine. And I loaded the next one. This next one here does have just more FMJs. The third one in my pocket is the one that has my HSTs 363, so could be better. What we're gonna do here, just to see how it does under recoil the full magazine, I'm just gonna dump the whole thing when I come up here. Starting on beep here. Whoop. Ooh. Hey, look at that. So, if you can't see it, we did drop part of the magazine. It looks like that happened when we still had 8 rounds in the magazine, so 10 rounds fired there. And I can confirm that using the shot timer. Let's see. No, I fired 11 rounds, so it's just I'm getting kind of a ghost position there. I didn't hit the magazine release as part of that. It just kind of slipped. So, yeah, and this magazine, if I pull on it, it's staying. It's in there pretty good. We'll rack it. We'll come up again here. And we're going to ditch that. HSTs. Well, that's unfortunate because the first magazine worked pretty good, but this is an issue that I'm hearing about. We're going to dump this last one, same deal as before. We're just going to shoot all 18, see if that happens again. It didn't fall all the way out of the gun like I've seen with some people. But it came out like half an inch, and that's all it takes for the gun not to be feeding anymore, of course. If I did have a round in there and didn't just have a click, that probably would have been, if it had chambered enough but then still dropped a little bit, that recoil from that last round would have caused it to drop there. So yeah, same deal as before. We're just gonna come up and shoot all of these. So let's see if we can see if that issue happens again. And of course, magazine was seated pretty well. It lasted for however many rounds. I shot 11 rounds before it happened. So, oh, well, new products mean new issues, right? Starting on beep. Well, that time it certainly came out. I'm going to drop the slide, reholster the gun. We're going to grab the magazine. We still have a handful of rounds in there. And yeah, so even on my gun that has my Glock 45 here, which I've shot a fair bit, but I know that the magazine release is holding totally fine, we're dropping some rounds here. Yeah, that's not great. That's not great. I think, and you know, I'm going to do a tabletop video on this in the next few days here to come. But I think what part of the issue is that Mec-Gar did a design that I think is a smart idea. They didn't do a full punch through for the magazine release, because that would require you to use a different magazine. The cutout here in the magazine would require a different magazine release if they punched all the way through, because the plastic one would just get eaten up by the cutout. So what they did here is they relieved it almost like how HK does their magazines. But I think the issue is that the ledge, and I apologize, I'm sure the video isn't going to look great here, but the ledge here is a little bit rounded. If it was more square, it would have had better locking engagement. So that's a bummer. That's a letdown. I was really impressed by these at range day at SHOT Show, but it sounds like Mec-Gar's going to need some more cooking, but I'm sure they'll figure it out eventually. But that just means I've got 3 magazines here that won't work in one of the 2 guns I have for it. The other gun being my old Gen 2 Glock 17, which that's a gun that has an even thinner profile magazine release that I bet would have more issues than this. So bummer, bummer. So Mec-Gar magazines, yeah, I won't be using these for anything really serious or just really at all. I'm just going to stick to the Glock OEM mags for now. So thank you for watching.